to have Talat Hasan joining us today. Talat is the chair and co-founder of the India Community Center. She's founded and developed a number of technology companies and remains actively involved in the space as an angel investor and board member of a number of companies. She serves on a number of philanthropic boards, including Indian Business and Professional Women, Indus Entrepreneurs, and the American Indian Foundation. And Talat and her husband have set up the Hasan Foundation in the US and the Meadowood Hasan Educational Foundation in India, serving a number of educational, cultural, and philanthropic causes in both countries. We're very happy to have her share her perspectives with us today. I guess I'd like to start by getting a better understanding of what the business model of the India Community Center is, how it's funded, how you were able to get the community active in it, engage them in it. I think it's one of the issues that we're facing a lot of difficulty with when we struggle with community engagement and getting people both financially and actively involved in this kind of thing.
Okay, thank you. Well, first of all, thank you all for having me here this afternoon. I'm very pleased to be here. When we were starting the India Community Center, we looked at the two really successful models ahead of us, which were the Jewish community centers and the YMCA. And the one thing that they both had in common were they were 150 years old. So building community centers, we recognized, was not something that is a quick process. And being an immigrant entrepreneurial community, we were a community in a hurry. And we said, well, so what if it took them 150 years? We can do it in 5. And there was a certain amount of, maybe not arrogance, may not be the right word, over self-confidence in thinking that because we built these huge companies, we were known as the entrepreneurs, we knew how to build something from nothing. We could build a community center and have it all figured out. Hey, we knew how to create a business model for any kind of business. Between us, if you look at our board and trustees, we've built software companies, telecom companies, semiconductor companies. We've done the whole 9 yards. The truth of the matter is we still haven't figured out what is the right business model for our community and our community center. But I'd be happy to share with you the business models we have been through and are still evolving. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that there isn't a CEO that says, I've listened to everybody, okay, here's where we're going. That's the way most of us are used to working. Now we're a collection of about 24 CEOs, all of whom has really good ideas. And so the process is kind of trying different things, failing, recovering, trying again, failing again. So when we first started, we said, okay, let's start small like any for-profit entity. We rented a space and we got a group of people together to each put in $250,000, and we said $1 million should be enough to get started. And actually, it was pretty close. And we had a model of a membership where community members would become members of the community center. And our thought was that on an ongoing basis, the membership revenue would pay for the operation. So we discovered a few things. First, that our community, and every community you have to figure the DNA of that community. Our community's DNA, we didn't really know it because we had interacted with each other mostly as either friends or as professional associates. We didn't know the DNA of our community. And what we found was that our community is very price sensitive, number one. Number two, it's short for cheap. Very price sensitive. Secondly, the service that they would value at this price if it was provided by someone else, if it's provided by another Indian, is valued down here.
We can relate to that.
So maybe there's something about the immigrant experience that makes that happen. And so what we quickly found was that we started off with our membership rates about what a YMCA would be, and found people would say, well, if I have to pay this much money, I'll go to a YMCA. So we said, okay, well, maybe it should be half that. So we made it half that, and when it was half that, it was, okay, what's the senior discount? And so what we found was that very quickly we were losing money hand over fist, because their expectation for service was very high. So we had to have the staff to service them, and we had to have the staff to provide the program content. You have to have content for people to come to a community center. So that model very quickly we found wasn't going to work, which is the model that, say, the YMCA's work off, which is primarily membership. So we then looked at what the JCCs and the YMCAs do in a little more detail, and what we found was they each run a fitness center. And the fitness center, particularly at the JCCs, is what ends up paying for all the social services. And the other thing they do is a child care center. We didn't feel equipped to do child care, but we thought, okay, we could contract out with the same fitness center they use, which is Club One. So we created this business model that included buying a building that was big enough to have a fitness center, and also big enough to have an auditorium and banquet hall, because we noticed that the JCCs had a very good revenue stream from their banquet hall, come auditorium. And so we thought, we modeled that, and we said, if we're half as successful as them, we should break even. Well, we're in the second year of that business model, and that hasn't worked either, for all the same reasons that the first one did, which is we've produced a state-of-the-art fitness center. It's actually better than most Club Ones. But people come there and say, but this is the Indian Community Center. I'm not going to pay Club One rates. And Club One wasn't willing to reduce their rates because we had contracted to them. After a year, we had to part company with Club One and decide to run it ourselves, which we're currently doing. We've had to drop the rates again and again and again to boost membership. The banquet hall has been somewhat more successful. So the long and the short of it is, we're still losing money. We're still heavily dependent on donations. And you know, the verdict is not in yet as to what is the final business model that will succeed in getting us to that break-even point.
Could you talk a little bit about the communication with organizations like the YMCA or JCC? Were you able to directly approach them, get best practice ideas, or was it more sort of just observing and looking at what they had done?
No, they've been amazingly open, and as of for the last several years, we've had the executive director of, first the JCC San Francisco was on our board for 4 years, and now we have the executive director of the big, huge one in Palo Alto. Many of you have seen it. Alan Sattleoff is on our board. We have the executive director of the YMCA in the Evergreen area. He's on our board. And they've been amazingly open. They've said, come and see our books. You can see anything you want. We'll tell you. They've given us their handbooks, their personnel policies and procedures, everything. Both organizations have been very open, which is why I'm here, because I feel that if we can all learn from each other, collectively our learning will be better. So,
how did you deal with issues of getting the community